It has been a while. Yeah, so today we have a very fun topic. We're talking about the CAP white paper.
Koinos Account Protocol, not address protocol, not KNS or name service. And we'll go through actually exactly why through the white paper why we're calling account service. This won't be a full read through. It's mostly a commentary because obviously you guys can read the document yourself. But we wanted to provide you guys our thoughts because we've been working on this, as an idea since January, and it really got put to the ground. I think maybe late summer, and after Burncoin, we really hit it hard and started working on the white paper to get this out to people.
Yeah, it's been a year in the making, and the concept is one that we shelved for a while in that year, but the idea came up about a year ago. So we've been working on a lot of things in the meantime with Burncoin, with I don't know what else have we done. It seems like there's been a
Honestly,
lot, but
these couple of months, the last show was actually, I think, the live release of
mhm.
Koinos back in November. We did a couple interviews too, I think.
Yep,
But what's really gone on the last couple of days, months, has really been just getting people into the community, making sure the claims are working, helping people set up nodes. There was a lot of just like grunty work that was necessary to help distribute some of this stuff. I mean, look at Airbnb and Uber in their first few years, right? It was a
yep,
lot of creative boots in the ground. Everybody was working towards things to get the mission accomplished. So I think we're at a point now where the community's really good at helping people get claims done and nodes started and troubleshooting things. So I'm really happy where it's been right now.
that's right. Yep. So, over the past couple of months, we've put together this white paper and just published it earlier this week. So, today we are going to jump into it. Why don't we do that? If you
All
have
right.
any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. We're also looking at Discord and Telegram, so feel free to drop us a line there.
All right. Let me bring this white paper up the screen. Uh, there we go. All right. So CAP Koinos Account Protocol. Luke, why don't just go straight into it? Why isn't it KNS or Koinos name servers? Why isn't it Koinos address protocol? What's up with the account name?
Yeah, so ENS is kind of the gold standard of name services on blockchain. The naming, I'm assuming, is based off of DNS, domain name service, which is where all of your .coms and .ios and all those come from. But ENS has the .eth domain. And there are others. There's unstoppable domains. Lens Protocol has .lens. There's equivalents on Solana, on basically every other blockchain. But initially, when I first put out the idea, CAP, I liked the acronym because it rolls off the tongue. You could say CAP. It was initially going to be Koinos Address Protocol, as a mapping from names to addresses. And I wanted it to be a protocol initially because I wanted to have that prefix of cap : / which establishes the context for any top level account. So where Ethereum is just the .eth, we wanted to enable having whatever you want and have it still be unique in its own namespace. So that way we're not conflicting with all the other blockchains and with you know
Other name
ENS with
services.
domain names. If somebody wanted to get a com top level account and issue .coms on CAP, you could, and it would just be, you'd have to prefix it with that CAP : / for it to make sense and actually resolve to the correct thing. So we iterated on that basic concept a few times, and we landed on the idea that it's more than names, it's more than addresses, it's accounts. And so an account, when you're coming from services, outside of blockchain, at least in my mind, typically means more than just, your wallet. It's like your savings account and your checking account rolled into one when you're looking at a bank. It's all of your account security features when you're on whatever online service you're
Application.
using. Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever app. It's all the privacy selections you make on Facebook or other social media. And those are all just features that people take for granted as being part of your account. And on blockchain, there's nothing really for that. And so getting a username is something that everybody is familiar with, and you have to do it to log into your bank even a lot of the time. And
Right.
so having an account name that's an NFT and then baking in a lot of other account features with that just made a lot of sense and went together well. So that's why we landed on account protocol and not name service or anything else.
I think when people look at blockchain in general, when they think about how to access the blockchain, they always think of, hey, let me get an account first. Let me get an account at this service, this application, and they compartmentalize things in accounts, not addresses. And if you had just addresses in blockchain, then you would actually have no features because we're all used to the Ethereum style account, which are known as EOAs or externally owned accounts. These accounts have basically no ability to accept smart contracts. They don't have the ability to be customized. You can't even select the name. You can't select the password. And there are some abstractions like MetaMask that allow you to have some type of password to unlock the private key. But there are no real account structures. And when we looked at the benefits of building a name service on Koinos, we suddenly found that there were so many benefits to the way Koinos allows wallets to upload smart contracts. And so, in that sense, we realized that you can do a lot with a Koinos address, and to the point where you can create whole accounts with customizable features, with things that work for the person. And it's something that's extensible to multiple applications. So I think the account protocol really puts a good description to what we're trying to provide. And when CAP finally launches, I think you guys will all be pleasantly surprised at how many more features you have in terms of controlling your addresses and how you interact interface with apps.
Yeah. And to be clear, we're going to launch this in phases. So initially, it's going to be limited to just the name service, and then we'll add more features as we go. That way, we can get this in front of everybody and start getting feedback and iterating from there. We're not holding
Yeah,
up the launch.
I think actually this is a pretty good important thing to mention. We're early in this video right now, so people watching get this piece of information real quick. But it's really difficult to launch something off the bat and expect it to be perfect in the first go. So you have to launch in a modular fashion, in evolutions, and then so that you can take what you build, get some feedback, evolve it, and actually bring the product to its original intent, which is what this white paper is. So when you guys see us launch it, we're going to launch in phases, and we're going to evolve it, and then we're going to take that slowly, step by step, to what the white paper is described in describing as an account protocol. So let's dig into the paper. So you're
Let's
going to
do it.
find here page one. It's Koinos Account Protocol. Our color scheme here, I hope people really enjoy, because actually we worked along with Carlos
Mhm.
to get this image. So thank you from the Koinos community. He's actually done a lot of artwork for a bunch of people throughout the ecosystem. But here's the first page, and then when you go to page two, we have a nice little contents here, short page. What we did first was kind of go in route. We really wanted people to understand why we're taking the approach we're taking. And it's largely because Koinos, brand new blockchain, it has new principles that just haven't been used in existing systems. Zero fees, for example. I mean, what other blockchain really truly has zero fees? That's native to the core structure of the blockchain. And so, um, Luke, do you want to go through anything specific in this particular background page here?
I mean, it speaks for itself. I hope it's not too heady for anybody who's looking at this and reading it. But kind of the core of this is that we wanted to lean into um, the aspect of digital ownership that you get with blockchain, and haven't really seen online anywhere else before, unless you're running your own server. But that's a different situation.
Very small people
Um,
do that.
right. Uh, and then how blockchain improves on that, but comes with big problems in terms of onboarding people. Um, so, in our opinion, blockchain and its accessibility is really capped in terms of being able to bring people on because of the need to buy tokens initially. And Koinos is designed in a way that removes this need through the concept of mana and mana delegation. So we can share the mana that lives in our coin with other people without it ever leaving our wallet. And so Koinos Account Protocol is really leaning into the lack of accessibility on blockchain onboarding, and the goal is to become the new entry point for blockchain for new people. So if you want to use a dApp, the easiest way to get started is just to get a username, basically, and that comes with free mana, that comes with abstractions for your account so you can control your security, privacy, all that stuff. uh, and without having to code anything, without needing to be technical, run your own server or anything like that.
Yeah, if you're new to blockchain, and we've talked about this on many of these shows before, if you're new to blockchain, your first step is probably trying to figure out how to convert your fiat currency into a token, just so that you can, fuel a smart contract. Through that process, it actually might take you several days. I think now, if it's a certain amount, you can go through like Uniswap and go straight from credit card to buying some tokens. But you still have to understand. You still don't want to have a concept of accounts. It's an address. There's no username. um, the concept of private key is, it may not even be present to you at the time because you're using MetaMask or Trust Wallet or anything like that. But with CAP, it's a native construct built on the blockchain. You don't have to go through MoonPay like Uniswap. You don't have to go through Exchange. You don't have to understand any of these concepts. You just get an account and you can begin experiencing blockchain. And I think
Right.
that's a really, really dramatic change in how the landscape of users, not really landscape, but how users interact with blockchain on step one.
Right. Absolutely.
So one thing actually I want to point out here is that there in the background in the second paragraph, I wanted to point out that people think they own digital items. Before you go into blockchain, you realize that you buy an audiobook on Amazon, you buy some music, whatever, right? You really don't owe anything. People can shut those things off from you in 2 seconds. And so I think blockchain allows this new paradigm to actually truly own digital items, which might draw people in who are not believers of a blockchain to blockchain, because you can actually verifiably own things. So I think it's an important detail. Page 2, or really page 4. Let's go to that. Introduction. Um, the introduction of this white paper points out 3 extremely clear objectives, to the point where we call them pillars. And Luke, I think you wrote a whole email in your CoinPress email list on this one.
I did, yeah. So the 3 pillars of CAP are, we've kind of danced around them, but we'll lay them out here. The ability to choose names, so that's the NFT name service. Abstracting accounts, so that's basically the ability to upload smart contracts and configure rules for your wallet without needing to code anything. And then tokenless access, or free mana. So that's where we're using the pooled coin that we're collecting through CAP name sales to fuel free blockchain usage for anybody who has an account.
Yeah, we're going to get deeper into each of these items, how we're going to provide tokenless access, exactly what kind of, or how we're going to do account abstractions. We'll go into that. But I think owning named accounts is a construct that people, honestly, if you're in blockchain, you have experience with. If you're not in blockchain, you just expect it. You expect to be able to choose your name. And so having no name services up until ENS was created, which was, I think, 2017, was kind of crazy if you think about it from the outside perspective. You couldn't own a name. You had this crazy, crazy. I mean, how long is a Koinos address? 20 plus characters.
Yeah, yeah. It's not very accessible to use the account. And I actually learned um, recently that there's a new attack that people are doing on MetaMask,
Mm.
where I think it's called the poison pill, where they insert like a free transaction in your wallet with an address that's really close to another address of yours, where it like matches the first few characters and the last few characters,
Oh,
and they just hope that you don't actually check every character.
yeah. Well, you can actually mine for addresses. And so you
Right.
can input the first 4 and the last 4, which is typically what you see, which is
Mhm.
typically also what I use to verify.
Right.
And if you can mine the first 4 and the last 4, then everything in between is random. And you could spend, a day, perhaps a high value target, and you could mimic one of their accounts and do this.
Right.
So you would
Yeah.
spend 2 or 3 days mining that address and trying to spoof them. That's pretty wild.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's things you can do to work around that. We're as part of CAP, we're going to be creating tooling for adapts to be able to integrate with CAP, the monopaying and displaying your username and all those things very easily. So having basically like an account, connect to your wallet kind of button where it shows a portion of your address, an identicon, which is basically like a visual hash of the actual address, and your preferred cap name if you have an account. So something along those lines, I think, will be very useful for people to just drop into their apps. And you should have a consistent visual way across the Koinos ecosystem eventually to ensure that you're using the right wallet, basically.
So with this introduction, we talked about the three basic pillars, the offerings of what you get with a CAP account. We also highlight a new item which isn't available on ENS or Unstoppable or Lens. It's a concept of a top level account, which is very similar to a top level domain. So
Right.
as Luke alluded to, you can create any top level name you want on Koinos. There's going to be a cost, and that cost is going to be burning the native token for Koinos Account Protocol, which is the CAP token. So you have to destroy some of those tokens in order to create a TLA, which means that TLAs are capped by how much cap there is.
Yeah.
Which again we'll go into a little deeper, but you can basically choose any TLA you want, any name you want, and there's a couple examples here where we kind of go through a typical cap address and a typical a custom TLA address here as well.
Right. Yeah. And so there's going to be the .coin TLA is going to be owned by the CAP protocol, and that will um, it'll allow people to register, qui.coin or any other name under that .coin domain. And then if I wanted to get CoinPress, I could do that, and I could either choose to sell additional names underneath that, or just use it to issue names to my own wallets, or have it built into my DApp for governance naming purposes or something like that. So there's a lot of different ways that you could use these. And it's very flexible because it comes with all of the resolution and registry services that you have with CAP. So if you're looking to do things like sell names under a new crypto or whatever, you could do that. If you want to use it just to give away free names as part of your game, you could do that too. So lots of things you can do there.
Yeah, especially if you want to manage your own TLA. Say you have a game DApp or an NFT, you can get your own TLA top level account and then issue sub accounts completely separate from the cap, uh, which eventually be the cap DAO, but the dot coin TLA completely separate from it. You can issue them for free. It's completely your own construct. All you have to do is burn the appropriate amount of cap tokens in order to create that TLA, and then you have to deal with the whole bidding process, which again we'll go into in this white paper.
Yep.
All right, so let's move on to page 5. All right, selecting a name. Um, Selecting a name should be something that I think most people on the internet are already familiar with. Whether you want to choose your personal name, most times you see a first initial and then a whole last name, or you have the full name spelled out, or you have a phrase like for me, for example, I call myself Moto Engineer, but I also go by my real name. So you can choose anything you really want, but there are limitations in terms of words based on characters. I mean, after all, we're dealing with the language, and there's only so many words we can choose from. So, Luke, why don't you go through exactly the structure of a free and a premium name?
Yeah. So the premium level is anything 10 characters or less. So if I want to get Luke.coin, that's going to come with a fee. If I'm going to get Luke Willis.coin, that'll still come with a fee. But if I want to get Luke M. Willis, my middle initial, and move up into that 11 plus character range, now that's completely free. So I can get any account I want for free. And that'll still come with free mana. That'll still come with account abstractions. It's just a free entry point for people to start using blockchain. And the premium names will be fully, they're they're premium because we want to incentivize availability of names for people who are willing to pay for them. So you look at ENS and everything is $5 a month plus gas, right? Or, sorry, $5 a year plus gas, until you get into the 4-character and 3-character range. And so with CAP, we're going to do similar, but we're going to have a free tier, and we're going to have more tiers in the 1 to 10 character range.
Yeah, there's only so many coherent words that people want and to represent themselves with, right? And in that smaller range, that sub 10 range, the exclusivity is something that people would pay for.
Right.
Outside of the 10 character range, which we did a quick study on names, basically looking at usernames, looking at people's real names, potentially what they would use for an actual email address or something like that. It turns out that when you get past 10 characters, uh, you suddenly open up the door for phrases, words. And these are where most people's usernames lie. And so for people who want exclusivity, they want ultimate representation, they want to own everything about a certain name, those are the people who would be likely to buy something like X.coin or maybe Pets.coin or um, any exchange.coin, something very, very coherent. It's very exclusive. And I think most people, they'll buy it if they want to, but we want to give everybody a free option, which currently I believe there are no free options anywhere. Not on ENS, not on Lens, not on Unstoppable Domain. So CAP is there for you.
Yep.
I do want to point out one cool example here, though. You ran through your name, Luke M. Willis. For people like me, my name is too short. It's like 6 letters. So either I'm forced to pay or you do what you do on email, right? When you find someone who has the same name, you add your year of birth or you add some phrase to it. But I want to point out example number 4 here. So OG Rex, which is a exclusive NFT collection that was released just last week. Someone like OG Rex can buy the top level account .OG Rex, and then they can issue second level accounts on top of their top level account. So they can create number 212.ogrex or most rare.ogrex and assign those to the actual NFT that they created. And thereby, as a buyer or observer on the future NFT marketplace called Collection, I can just simply look at the address and know that this is the authentic one instead of having to verify the smart contract in which it originated from. All right, so let's go to page 6. CAP account types. So this page is a further breakdown of the difference between free and premium accounts. The one thing that I think is most relevant here is the fact that premium accounts, you have to pay a registration fee to create it, to obtain it, but you also have to pay a renewal fee in order to keep it in perpetuality. But if you don't pay that renewal fee, within 60 days, the CAP protocol would take back that name so that someone else can acquire it. And that's because words are limited. And if you don't use a word, then someone else might find it more useful and they should have it too.
Right.
What else we got here?
So
I think
the distinction between free and premium is pretty, hopefully it's pretty understandable. The free accounts are free. You don't ever have to pay. They're yours forever. There's no renewal fee. The premium accounts, yes, there's an annual recurring fee. You can prepay for a number of years if you don't want to think about it. And then there's a CAP token that will be airdropped to people who buy premium names later.
right.
And that's important because we're not doing an IDO. We're not selling this token before we have a product. We are selling you the actual names and you're getting these tokens for free. We're not making any claims about the value of these tokens. We don't know what they're going to be worth to people over time. The only thing that we can say is that the utility they provide is one, being able to vote in governance of the CAP protocol, and the ability to burn those cap tokens to get top level accounts. So if you want a top level account, you either need to acquire your own cap tokens, through the airdrop function of buying premium names, or buying them on DEX, or going and what am I trying to say?
You can either get it through airdrop, or eventually you may end up finding it on an exchange like
Right.
CoinDX.
Yeah. And it's possible that we would, depending on your use case and why you're looking for cap tokens, the DAO could give you a grant for a certain number of cap tokens.
Right, and that's built in. Again, another item we'll talk about in the tokenomics section and DAO section. But it's important that people understand only premium accounts get the airdrop. So when you're getting an NFT name, when we launch CAP, you'll be able to buy a premium name, and the premium nature of it is just the length of the name. And so when you think about whether or not it's worth it to you, think about whether or not you want to be represented with that name, and that's the value you get early on. And over time, we're going to start deploying all of the account abstractions, the free mana, and then you'll find that you get more and more value over time.
Right.
So let's move on to the next page. Cap account times continue. So this one, we talk more about TLAs. TLAs, it's an interesting use case because I don't know why ENS doesn't allow additional top levels to be created. They're pretty stuck on ENS. I mean, .eth.
Yeah. I did some research on this. The ENS protocol is really keen on integrating with DNS. They want to be part of like the normal name service of the internet. And so their goal there is that if you type whatever .eth into your browser, it would resolve using the blockchain, but also DNS. So it's an interesting goal that they have. I don't know if it's going to pan out for them, because that's a lot of overhead, a lot of cost, a lot of bureaucracy, red tape to cut through to get to that point. If they're able to pave that way, we may later decide to pursue that for .coin. But the goal of having the cap prefix is so that we can allow permissionless creation of other top level accounts without conflicting with the public namespace. So we're restricting ourselves to this prefix so that there's a clear distinction, and we can use our space with this cap : / however we want without worrying about conflicting. And then later, if we wanted to break a piece of it out, like .coin, that's something that we could do without impacting the broader domain space.
I think there's also another service. Correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but even if .eth or ENS did not integrate with the existing DNS namespace, there's also the limo service that they created, which
Right.
allows the .eth names to be brought to Web 2 through what they call limo.eth, I believe.
Yeah. So if I had luke.eth, which I don't, I could go to luke.eth.limo, or luke.eth.link is another one, but that's a centralized service. So when you go to luke.eth.limo, it resolves to the data on the blockchain and then displays like a profile page or whatever it is that you have it linked to. So I think vitalik.eth.limo directs to his blog, I think. And then if you were to go to somebody else's, it might just show like their NFT avatar and social links that they put on the blockchain.
So there's multiple solutions to what they're trying to achieve with integration with DNS. And I think we've talked a little bit about limo services and how we can bring that, but that's a later phase of CAP, and we'll get to that point, and we'll tell you exactly how we'll do that. There is an example here I kind of want to go through though. So if you get a TLA, one problem is that we have in blockchain, you see this all the time, people trying to benefit by squatting on names, right? And so imagine you can get the TLA dot Coinbase, right? Coinbase comes in and wants to buy it, but someone else already bought it. What do they do? The only option they have and this is common in existing DNS namespace as well. The only thing they can do is contact the owner and attempt to negotiate a price for it. Right? It's off. It's completely off the record, and basically the owner of that named account can charge whatever price they want.
Right.
And all they have to do is basically buy the name and sit on it. There's no real cost to them. And so if you look at Vitalik's blog, which we actually linked up here, it's vitalik.ca general, and he posted about September 9th and talked about ENS. And he talked about unstoppable domains as well, which, if you don't know, unstoppable domains allows you to buy a named account for the rest of your life, paying one fee. And so the problem is squatting. And what Vitalik suggested was something that we really thought about, and we found that it would really make sense in TLA, where you buy the TLA, so you burn some CAP tokens, you acquire TLA, and then if somebody says that, well, you're not bringing value to that name, they're going to be able to on-chain bid for that TLA. And what's going to happen is that if you reject the bid because it's too low, you now have to pay a annual registration fee for that TLA. So you start off not having one, and the moment a bid comes in, if you reject it, then you have to pay a registration fee that's equal to 1% of that bid. And it happens each time you have a higher and higher bid. Now, some people may think that this is just going to cause grief to the owner, but the reality is that if I'm bidding on that name, I have to put the tokens into an escrow account. And so I'm actually bidding on a real name. And quite frankly, if people, get a CAP TLA and then they find that they're working on creating a business around this name, but someone comes in and bids $1 million, well, that person just burned whatever amount of CAP, and they have an offer for $1 million, which, quite frankly, a lot of businesses have to work really hard to get to that point. And so you can just sell the TLA and change your name, because reality is that the name isn't what defines your business. It's the work you put into it, the value, your customers. Just because a name changes doesn't mean anything. Like at Facebook, it became Meta. Is it any different, really? It isn't. So we feel like this bid system is really good for TLAs. And there's been some commentary actually in Telegram and in Discord about bringing that same bidding system into the .coin namespace. These are great ideas that the community's brought, and we're going to think about it. And if we have to, we'll revise it. Again, this white paper is an idea, and we'll continuously improve it to make sure that the product is what customers actually want.
Yeah, and I do want to comment on that. The reason we didn't put the bidding mechanism on .coin names is because .coin is really intended to be for individuals, people who want to own their identity. They want a username on the Koinos blockchain. And for that, you don't really want to lose that, at least in my opinion. I mean, this is just theory, right? And once we get into this, we may discover that it doesn't matter, and people are fine with having bids, and they want bids on their account names. But the assumption that we're making is that once you own Luke.coin, you want that to be your identity, and so losing your personal identity is a lot harder than losing your business address, basically, right? Because it's really just a human readable address. So having, if you have a top level account, that's really designed for businesses, for applications, and, broader applications. And maybe you're using it as a top level account to issue and sell other subdomains. And in that case, there would be rules baked into the top level account that prevent the buyer from just destroying everybody's names that they bought and that kind of thing. So we're going to make sure that it's designed well so that in the case of a transfer of a top level account, they can't just go through and wreck everybody who's invested in that. It'll either be they're taking control of that business, depending on the nature of the business, or they're just taking control of the name, and the business, the application, can actually just get a new name.
Yeah, or you're a straight baller and you want to own your name. Like I could buy .qui and, issue anything I want on it. So
Right.
Not only just businesses, but also to a very small extent, people who really, really, really want to own everything about it. We're giving you that option. Any other comments on this page? We're going to move on.
Did we get into the bid, like the actual numbers on this a little bit?
No, actually, yeah. Let's go into that number a little
Okay,
bit. Why don't you do that?
let's give a quick breakdown. I'll do this
Yeah.
in 2 minutes. So basically, when you get a bid on a top level account, uh, that creates an annual fee for the top level account. So if your top level account got a bid of $100,000, then 1% of that would be your new annual fee, $1,000. So whenever you get a bid, the person who's making the bid has to actually deposit their tokens for the bid on the contract. And then you have to decide whether to accept it and give away your NFT and take those tokens out, or reject it. And by default, you'll reject it. So you can expect that um, the you won't have to worry about the annual fee unless you choose to reject. Then you have to decide how you're going to pay for it. Um, so 1% is a really low level where uh, we believe that if somebody comes in and bids, $100, $1 a year is nothing. $1,000, $10 a year, not that much. So it's really once you get into meaningful amounts of money as bids that your annual fee starts to become meaningful. So the value that's baked into the name that you've chosen, now you need to decide whether you're in it for the long haul or you're willing to sell it for that amount now. So it's that 1% level. Now, there is a cap each year. So initially, you just burn your cap tokens, you get the NFT, there's no annual fee. The maximum that your fee can go up to in a 1 year time frame is $1,000. So if you own it for 10 years and nobody bids on it, it's free. Then somebody comes in and bids $500,000. Well, that first year after that bid of 500,000, assuming you reject the bid, now your fee is $1,000. So that's the cap the first year. And then the second year, that can double. So the number that we're working toward is $5,000. That's 1% of the bid that you received. So it starts as $1,000. The next year it doubles to 2,000. The next year it doubles to 4,000, and then after that it goes up to 5,000. So then if somebody came in before it got to that 5,000 number and bid $800,000, then it would go from $4,000 to $8,000.
Right.
Similarly, if somebody bids $500,000 and you accept the bid, then they take control of it and their fee is automatically $5,000. So it starts at that level because that's 1% of the bid that they made.
I think if you really think about it that way, then it's really hard for someone to actually cause griefing onto another user because they're at a loss. You're putting real money on the line, and so you can't just go ahead and bid on. It's not like eBay in 1998 where you can just bid and retract things, right? You're putting real money into an escrow account, and you will lose that money if the bid is accepted. So you really have to be careful with this one, and I think that you're not going to find much griefing practices through the system.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to page 8. Tokenless access. This has been something that, man, I think everybody has thought about some way to share mana because this is the golden goose egg of blockchain, right? Giving access to people without buying tokens.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you start with this one? Because I'll go talking for forever on this one.
Yeah. So, I mean, the diagram on the right, I think, says it all. Worth reading through this, but really, the coin treasury that's owned by KAP will continue to grow over time through premium annual renewal costs and new registrations. And so, as that KAP treasury grows, there's going to be a lot of mana in this pool. And so, rather than just making this like a token, or rather a pool of coin that we distribute to KAP holders or something like that, we wanted to use that pool as a means to give people tokenless access to dApps. So the way this works on Koinos is that the treasury will sit in an account where the wallet has a contract uploaded that authorizes anyone with a .coin name to set the treasury as the payer. Somewhat technical there, but basically what that means is that if you own a .coin account, even if you don't have any coin, you go and use a dApp directly, and the dApp will be set up to use KAP as the payer for the transactions. So just by using your .coin account with the dApp, automatically things are paid for you. So you have access to a certain level of service on the blockchain without needing to worry about where, how much money it's going to cost you in gas to do the thing, or even, whether your tokens are locking or unlocking, because it's all in the treasury. So as we collect fees from .coin, that goes into the treasury pays mana, everyone can use dApps, everybody's happy. Now, there may come a time when demand for mana exceeds what we have in the pool. When that happens, we want to open up the pool for depositors. So we want to give anybody who in the ecosystem holds coin and wants to contribute to free access for people with .coin, they can stake their coin in this pool. And then at that point, we would introduce inflation of the KAP token. And at this point, we'd be a DAO, and this would all be subject to review and decision by the DAO. But we would incentivize depositors to put their coin in the treasury for a certain amount of time, and then that would increase the amount of mana we have to give out to people. And then as a result of that, you would earn KAP tokens and potentially a percentage of the fees from premium .coin accounts. So again, we expect this to be later on down the road when mana is in high demand and we're already a DAO. So the rules on this could change, but this is the concept that we're putting forward as kind of our gold standard for where we think this should go.
Yeah, one thing I want to point out is all of the ideas that people have in distributing mana, they have one issue, and it's the free rider problem, where everyone wants to give their mana to somebody, but the moment that the mana becomes high demand, people are going to pull back that coin and they're saying, well, because there's more demand than what there actually is supply, there's a way to make money from this one. And the second that happens, and I assume that it will happen because Koinos is accessible, and if you want the promise of blockchain, then you're probably going to go to the easiest place to get it, which hopefully is KAP on the Koinos blockchain. So at that point, you have to figure out how to incentivize people to deposit the coin into a public pool, because whales, if you got 1 million coin, if you have 10,000 coin, even 5,000 coin, you probably can't use that much mana. And you're probably going to initially want to give it away to help generate value for the ecosystem. But at some point, you're going to want to monetize it because there's just more demand. And so at that point is when the Treasury's coin pool, the inflation of KAP tokens could be used to incentivize people to deposit more mana. And the way I think about it is that if you look at mining, you get about 4% for depositing your coin there. Well, if you do that though, you get locked into VHP tokens, which means that you don't have liquidity in coin, you have liquidity in VHP. You may want to dump it into some DeFi protocol, which will get much higher numbers. But overall, in KAP, you get in the KAP treasury pool, you will get some coin and some KAP. What ratios we're not quite sure yet. We'll monitor that, but you will be incentivized to deposit coin, and incentivization is powered by the human need to be able to have names. We find that to be a very, very strong motivating factors to collect fees in order to help distribute mana. And so that's the basic principle of it all. Obviously, in the beginning, no one's going to pay to get mana. They just buy coin. It's pretty cheap right now. A little plug in here. If you want to buy coin, do not buy the ERC20 token on Uniswap. That's completely gone now. The only place to get it is mexc.com. It's a centralized exchange where you can get coin, mainnet coin, and then move it onto your personal custodial wallets like MKW, My Coin Wallet, or Condor.
Good plug.
But that's how we plan on doing tokenless access. Any questions? Feel free to dump it in the chat. We'll answer at the end of this video. I'm sure this item is going to be a hot topic for people to talk about.
Yeah, I think it's important that the way this works is through a pool, where there's been a lot of talk about letting people keep their coin in their wallets and connect with the users so that it can be like this decentralized market. That could work, and I think that there's a good case to build that. But for this is really the simplest way to get mana to people, where you don't have to make an additional hop to find somebody to be the payer for you, right? So in terms of offering a simple experience, this makes the most sense to us. If another approach is built and it offers a comparable UX, there's an opportunity to potentially use that as part of CAP. And so we're leaving this open, but at the moment, we believe that a pool of coin with depositors is the simplest way to offer free access to anyone.
Yeah, and I also don't want people to think that CAP is the only solution to any of this stuff. It's going to be a combination of private pools. It's going to be a combination of dApps supplying it, CAP supplying it. So together, the entire ecosystem will find ways to fill in all the little gaps. But CAP is going to be, to me at least, some other people might think differently, but it's a very infrastructure level. It's the broadest, most easiest way to access it. And
Right.
so I expect it to cover the widest range, but there will be some areas where other people have to fill in.
Right. Yeah. And if you're looking to use the blockchain, nothing beats having your own coin. Um, Close second would be having a friend with deep pockets. But uh, in order to use the blockchain and have growth exceed current levels, bringing in people who've never used blockchain before, it has to be something where you don't need to know anybody. You just set up an account, you use it, you're done.
Step one: get a CAP
Yep.
account, and you're off, to races.
Yep.
All right. Next page. Account abstraction. This is the juicy one.
Yeah.
The concept of account abstraction was developed simply for the very fact that on Ethereum, which is kind of like the king of all general purpose blockchains, the fact that on Ethereum you cannot upload a smart contract to a wallet. A wallet is just a place to store tokens, to store private keys, that acts as tokens on the blockchain, and to sign messages. Outside of that, if you wanted some type of abstraction where, let's say you want to schedule a payment, if you want to automate something, you simply can't do that. And so the idea of account abstraction came from Ethereum. Account abstraction on Koinos, we're going to use the same phrase here, but account abstraction on Koinos is a given. It's
Mhm.
there for you. You can upload smart contracts directly to wallets, which means that you can program your wallet to make make a smart wallet, which has a lot of benefits and features for people,
Right.
especially new users.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity here. The approach that we have is much simpler than it would have been on Ethereum, because the accounts where we're uploading these smart contracts, you can use Condor, you can use my Koinos wallet, you can use any other wallet that comes down the line, because it is just a wallet. So the features that you're baking into your wallet are going to be smart contract based. And the way we're going to do this is having a um, a base logic system, smart contract, that lives inside of the CAP DAO. And when you upload an account abstraction, it's going to be a very thin, very minimal contract that really just lets you set rules. So you'll do this like initialize account features kind of button. You'll have to sign a transaction, and it'll upload this light smart contract to your wallet, and then you'll need to set what rules you want. So there'll be different features and different ways that you can set it up. Different things we've talked about are social account recovery, where you could set a couple friends or even the CAP corporation to be a recovery partner, so that if you ever lost access to your private keys, your recovery partners could uh, sign a transaction that says, we verified offline that this person lost their keys and this is them making this request. So we want to transfer all the assets in this wallet to this other wallet that they've set up now. So something along those lines allows you to get your tokens back if you're accumulating tokens without, if you lose your keys, you're still okay. Now, if somebody steals your keys, that's a different story. For that, we're looking at allowing for vaults, which is another kind of account abstraction, which is basically just a contract that requires a time delay for anything you want to do. So you stick your coin in there, you stick your NFTs in there, whatever. And then if you want to pull anything out, you have to say, I intend to pull out my OG Rex, and you put that in there, and then it takes a week or 3 days or whatever you configure it to be before you can actually do that transfer. So now if somebody steals your keys, then they can come in and they say, I'm going to withdraw your money in a week. And now you have a week to say, no, you can't do that. Now, where you go from there, there's a lot of different schemes for how to recover your funds, basically with multi-sig or, social account recovery again, or different tools to get your tokens out, even though you've lost the main keys. So we're looking at vaults, we're looking at social account recovery. There's concept of wills, where if you never interact with the blockchain for a year or longer, or however you set it up, then all of your tokens get transferred to beneficiaries, whether that's your spouse or a friend or whatever. You basically just say, I'm probably dead and I don't want these tokens to die with me, so I'll send them wherever it is they need to go. And then the last one, which I think is really cool for Koinos in particular, is the concept of mana delegation. So if you have your own coin, then controlling who has access to that mana, whether that's your own wallet or a friend, that's a little bit tricky because you have to upload a smart contract to do it. So we want to have, as part of this account abstraction, the ability to delegate your own mana to your friends or to another wallet. Now, if you're using mana from KAP, we still want you to be able to set up friends, or at least your own wallets. The intention is your own wallets, to use the blockchain without an account on behalf of your main account. So if I have Luke.coin, I can still set up another wallet with nothing in it. It's completely empty, no NFTs, no tokens, and I can still use that to use the blockchain without even risking my Luke.coin name. So now I can connect this completely empty wallet to a dApp that I've never heard of before and I don't trust, and I can use the dApp without risking any of my assets.
Which is a major problem currently with new users on MetaMask. I mean, the number of new users that come in during or right after a bull run, it's a tremendous number of people. And what they don't realize is that when you connect to a dApp that promises the moon, which you shouldn't believe, obviously, but people still do, they end up connecting to it. And by connecting to it, they simply allow that dApp to drain all the funds out.
Right.
Can't steal something if it's not there, right? And that's the entire idea behind sharing mana from one account to another account that has no tokens in it. We call it a risk-free account, or there's several names that possibly make sense. But the idea is that you don't have to be scared of doing anything on the blockchain. You can go out there and discover things and experience the world of decentralized access without any fear of losing tokens. Because obviously, current constructs require you to have tokens in those wallets. And unless you're okay with dealing with multiple accounts on MetaMask and potentially losing tokens, then you may want to use Koinos for risk-free accounts. And I think that's going to be another very powerful construct that Koinos has allowed us to have.
Yeah. Importantly, I'm going to say all of those features are not important until you are actually using the blockchain regularly. You have some tokens, you have NFTs you've earned from a game or something. Now you care, right? So people who are coming in and getting a free account and just using the blockchain, they don't have to worry about any of this. It's only at the point where you have some assets or are just concerned with your privacy, security, whatever. Now you can start caring. Now you can go through the process of initializing these features and setting them up for your account. And the goal is to have good, intelligent defaults for these things, so you don't have to go through form hell of making all these selections. But it's going to be configurable, so you can set up your own rules and we'll look at adding more features over time, but this is a feature set that we think is very important for supporting people who want to use the blockchain and aren't as technical, so don't want to code up their own contracts for these things.
which is pretty much everyone.
Right.
Next page. Sustainability. I don't think it's. I think we talked about this a lot already.
Mhm.
Free accounts. There's a little table right here on the lower right hand side with possible combinations using Latin words and Arabic numbers here. But if you look at it from the perspective of how many accounts you can generate once you go to the free realm, it's pretty much unlimited.
Right.
There's more names available than there are people on Earth,
Right.
and grains of sand on this planet. And so that's not something that we worry about as far as sustainability goes. But when
No.
it comes to the 10 or less character set, you quickly realize that there are a lot, but there are only so many that are coherent, right?
Right.
Especially when you start smashing dictionaries together. On the English dictionary, yeah, there may be here, like, say, 5 letters, 658,008 possible combinations, but how many actual coherent 5 letter words are there? You may bring this into different languages, and all of a sudden you realize that you can never really hit that number, which is why we require a annual renewal fee in order to keep some of these names. And if you don't pay it, the CAP smart contract has the ability to take those names back into its own namespace so that other people can access it. And in
That's
the
right.
top section here, there's a quick little diagram. Premium accounts can go in and out of the namespace based on the renewal fee. Free accounts can only ever leave the namespace because once you have it, you keep it forever. And then custom, top level accounts, those can also come in and out of the namespace.
That's right. Yep. Do we want to get into pricing specifics at this point, or do we want to hold off on that?
I would actually, I would hold off on it, but I would ask the community to tell us what you think about the pricing structure. Look at ENS. ENS names are typically $15. Gas fees and all this stuff baked in. It's like $5 plus gas fees multiple times, but it's about $15. And then when you get into the specialized names of 4 characters, it goes to a couple $100. Um,
I think it's I'm probably going to get these numbers wrong, but it's like 120, 125 bucks for the 4 character, and then it's either like 300 something or 600 something for the 3 characters.
I believe it's about $300 or something like that.
Okay.
But there's a lot more resolution in CAP, and the mere fact that you have the ability to get a free account is why some of these upper tiers are going to be priced a lot higher, just because we're going to allow resolution down to 1 character, which is not available on any of these other name services.
Yeah.
But that's sustainability. It's all created with sustainability in mind. Let's go to the next page. DAO governance. If you're familiar with Coin, I feel like DAO governance is pretty simple.
Yeah. There's not a whole lot to say here. It's a typical stake weighted DAO. Anybody can submit a proposal. The voting period will be however long. I think we
2
said
weeks, I think we put
2 week voting period. So if it passes the vote, then your proposal gets implemented. So typically, same as anywhere else, if you want to make a proposal, just dropping it on the blockchain and hoping that people vote for it, it's not a very good
Yeah.
approach. You want to talk about it with people and say, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, and get buy-in before you even build it. So yeah, it's a pretty basic setup. CAP token holders will be responsible for voting and will require a minimum quorum of 25%. So not everybody has to turn up to vote, but we need at least a pretty decent turnout so that we can have a trustworthy vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing I want to point out though, at launch, the DAO will not exist yet, and
Right.
for a lot of reasons. For the first reason is because the CAP token hasn't been distributed yet. So if people
Right.
don't hold tokens, there's no DAO. Second, because we plan on phasing the launch into different evolutions, we're going to launch CAP with a multi-sig first, and that way we can get everything set up, we can upgrade through process, and we can also get feedback from DApp developers and kind of adjust things as necessary, and we won't have to go through a governance vote. So it'll be multi-sig. The keys will likely be held by Luke, myself, other notable community members, and you'll find that this launch method was also done by many applications or decentralized applications on Ethereum, including ENS. It's just the easiest way for us to continuously improve CAP to the point where we're reaching our goals.
Right. And this will allow us to move faster as well, because having it be multi-sig initially, we won't have to go through a voting period to make upgrades. And in the event that there's an issue early on, or even if we're just releasing things very frequently, then this allows us to move quickly. And then once things stabilize and we have good recurring revenue, then we'll look at doing the airdrop, releasing, making it all controlled by the DAO. So that's where we're headed.
All right, getting close to the end here. Got a couple more slides here. Tokenomics, probably what most users will look at before looking at all the other features. But we've got a pretty fair tokenomics system here, I believe. The founders, Luke and I, we reserve 15 million CAP tokens for ourselves, but it's not just for us. If we want to bring on more team members as CAP grows, we'll be looking at using that supply to help incentivize our own growth as the CAP corporation. There's also 25 million. Go ahead.
We may use some of that early on to fund development, either bringing in new people or just basically paying ourselves salaries or something like that. So we'll figure out how to do that. Obviously, we want to keep our CAP tokens as much as possible, but if we need to sell them, we need to sell them, right?
We also have 25 million CAP, which is specifically reserved for the DAO. And it's so that DAO has some funds to decide what they want to do with it. It's mostly to encourage growth of the DAO, of the CAP ecosystem, and how the DAO sees fit. Or really, not just the DAO, but how the users see fit. If the users want a certain function, and they have certain members inside that group that want to build it and present it to the DAO governance for voting and inclusion into the smart contract, then certainly the DAO has the ability to use some of this allocated tokens in order to fund it.
Right.
And then lastly, we have the bulk of these tokens, 60 million CAP tokens, specifically reserved for airdrops. We're not going to present the airdrop schedule now because we're still trying to get the pricing structure right. Remember that only premium accounts get CAP airdrops. And the more exclusive your account that you're buying, the more tokens you'll get, or the more accounts you try to buy, the more CAP you'll get. But these tokens are going to be exclusively for people who own premium accounts.
That's right.
So in total, that's 100 million CAP. So it kind of matches the original concept of Koinos when they launched on the ERC20.
Yeah. And we mentioned inflation earlier. This says 2%. It is initially going to be 0%. So we're not looking to inflate the supply beyond that 100 million until such time that demand for mana grows. So at that point, we would incentivize coin depositors with more CAP tokens. At least that's the plan.
Yeah. Again, the DAO has the ability to change this number. It's going to be starting off at 0%. But if the DAO finds that it's growing, if Koinos finds itself growing so rapidly that it needs more funds, they may try to inflate these tokens at a different level or a higher level. So really, it's up to the DAO to decide what that is ultimately.
Right.
Let's go to next page. All right. So rest of this stuff is glossary. If you have any terms that you're not sure of, go ahead and look at the glossary. It'll help you understand this stuff. But I'm going to close this window out for now, and we'll make some closing statements on this one, and we'll end the show. Luke,
good talk today. Yeah, I think. Well, I'm really excited about CAP. I think that this is honestly, it's the culmination of a lot of different ideas. We were originally looking at doing something called monestation, which is a term we use in this white paper, and that was just going to be the free mana aspect alone. And then I also had the idea of the account NFTs. And when we married those two together, it started making more sense because there was a clear revenue source for, to fund the free mana. And it made sense because, how do you whitelist people to get access to free mana? Give them a name, right? And then the idea of account abstraction and weaving that in as well, that was a later addition, but it made a ton of sense. It was, I don't remember when it was, sometime in December probably, when we were looking at the name, which was still Koinos Address Protocol, and we said, what if it was account? What would that mean? What would change? And so we dug into that more and landed on account abstraction and said, oh, actually, those are great features that we'd initially thought would just be part of wallets, but doing it in a separate interface where you configure your account and then can use any wallet, that's pretty compelling. So
Yeah, Koinos. If you're a developer and you're looking at what blockchain to choose, I strongly suggest you look at Koinos, because when CAP gets released, and we do plan on doing a module release, so you get some basic level access first, and then you get more and more access to free mana and account abstraction. But if you are thinking about developing a dApp, one concern you might have is, how do you get users, right? How do you develop a dApp and get users who are no coiners, people who don't hold tokens, and then it quickly becomes clear that it's not your job as a dApp developer to get people onto blockchain, right? Um, it's the blockchain's job, but that's the classic construct. With CAP, you don't have to worry about any of those things, because if you're creating a dApp, go get a CAP account. Right? It's like getting an email account to access the internet's email, internet messaging. And so it's that level of construct that we're really focusing on CAP. And we think that if people build on Koinos, users can go to CAP, get the account, try out the application, and you're good to go. And I think that's a really powerful thing. And I really hope, I really do think that we'll succeed in this mission, just because how strong Koinos has given us in terms of tooling to do this.
yeah, I'm really excited for where we're going from here.
Absolutely. So that's about it. I hope you guys take some time out to read the CAP white paper. If any questions, tag us on Twitter at CAP Domains. Tag Luke M. Willis. Tag myself, Kuixihe, which is pronounced Kuisihe, depending if you're American or not, because my name in Chinese is totally different. My mom calls me a whole bunch of other names. I know Andrew calls me Kwai, which is what my mom calls me. Yeah, tag us on Twitter and drop a message on Telegram, Discord, and we'll make sure we answer it.
All right. Thanks for your time, everybody. Hope this was helpful.